Hey folks, it's Egwin from Beyond Systems. Welcome back to 24 days of movement and consciousness snacks. Today I'm going to show you an exercise where we work again on hip mobility and on positioning of the upper body and a little bit on shoulder and chest mobility as well. Now, this posture that I'm going to show you is not so much a strength exercise as it is a coordinational and intentional exercise. When I say intentional exercise, for those of you who know my channel, you know that sometimes I'm talking about how to lead a movement. And most of the time, I'm not so much a friend of pushing from A to B. This is an option, and sometimes pushing is absolutely okay, and is also a good thing, making a push-up or something like that. But sometimes my intent actually leads a movement. In this specific one that I'm going to show you in a second, for instance, my intent leads my fingers as if something or someone was actually pulling on my fingers. So don't be fooled just by the position my body is in. Really try to see what type of activation I am using in order to create a certain movement. This is extremely important. This is the consciousness part of this exercise today. When we think about movement, or we take a look at movement and we try to work through a new movement that we learn, most of the time the only thing untrained people do is they simply look at postures. They simply look at how does this movement look from the outside. They look at the most obvious things, like is this arm moving upwards, is it moving sideways, and so on. And at the very beginning, this is fine. But the second you take it to the next level, it's not so much about, well, this arm is moving slightly upwards, so this has to be the activation. I just move my arm up. It's more the subtle things. It's those secondary movement aspects of, okay, hang on. What could possibly be the intent when the arm is moving away from my body? It looks as if it's also got this upward intent or upward motion in it, but it's not a simple swing of the arm in my shoulder upwards. And that's important. That's what's happening in this movement. Now, let me show you what we're going to do here today. We're going to stand in a much wider than shoulder wide stance, inside edges of the feet parallel. We're going to push from the left side. Yes, this is a push in parts, but the most important thing is my right foot has to swivel out of the way and to swivel on the heel. Do not swivel on the ball of the foot, as this will compromise your posture and your knee structure. In this specific case, move your foot on the right heel. So my right foot is actually turning out like so on the heel, and as soon as I get a little space here, because of my right leg moving to the side, that's when I gently push from the rear leg and push my center of gravity just a tiny little bit towards the right side. So from here, it's actually this movement. My whole upper body moves with my hip to the right side. Look at my hips. My right knee is still pointing in the direction of my right toes. My left knee is still pointing in the direction of my left toes. Make sure that the left knee does not collapse to the inside. Again, I talked about this before. This is extremely important. Do not collapse in here. Make sure that the left knee is still centered in the direction of the left toes. So it's not necessary, if you do not have the hip mobility, to open your rear hip joint completely like I do right now. No problem. Just don't turn the right foot as far out as it could, and stop whenever you feel that's the maximum I can go without compromising my knee structure in the rear foot. That's what's happening in the legs. So I'm moving to the side and I'm pushing a little bit from the left side, extending my left hip joint, and the right one has this closing aspect in front of me. From this posture, we move back to the center and we pull the right leg, the right foot back in. Then the left leg and foot in the hip joint is opening to the side. And I have, as much as an opening, I also have this gentle push into the new direction. Then I pull it back in. And then I open to the right side, I pull it back in. Open to the left side, I pull it back in. And then there is the component of my arms to this movement. Component of my arms to this movement looks like that. When I turn to the right, my left shoulder will naturally follow my hips, and then the left arm rotates inward, whereas my right arm actually rotates to the outside. I have an external rotation in my right shoulder. The palm of the right hand is facing upwards. I have an angle of more than 90 degrees in my right elbow, and this is the intent part. It's as if someone was pulling on my right fingers to the side, and my left shoulder is rolling to the inside. My left thumb is pointing towards the body and then pointing backwards, so it's a complete internal rotation on the left side. And then I come back to center. My arms are centered in front of me. When I push to the left side, left leg goes out of the way, left arm leads with the fingers, and my right arm this time is rolling in, also gently extending to the rear and stretching down. Come back to center, and come out to the right side. Notice there is also an extension in my wrist. Back to center, and to the left side, and in to the right side, and in and to the left side. Show you this one time from the side so that you have an idea what's happening in my spine. In the center position, my spine is pretty much upright, and I turn my right foot out. I have this slight leaning aspect now towards the camera. This is this leaning to the side here. But when I come back to center, my body is pretty much upright again. And then I have this leaning aspect towards the left. Last but not least, one more thing to go that's very important. When I'm talking about this leaning aspect coming out here, make sure it doesn't look like this. Make sure that your upper body is in one continuous line with the rear leg, like this. So there is one line from the rear heel through my body into my left fingers, and so on and so forth. Have fun with this movement. If you have any questions, it's a more complicated one, I know. But what the heck, it's movement snacks, so just try it out. Make sure not to hurt your knee by simply making sure that the alignment of your knee is always with the toes, and then you're safe to go. Have a wonderful time. See you tomorrow in the next snack. Thanks for watching.